So do you want to start the recording? I don't have permission. All right, thanks. So this is the March 30th storage SIG. KubeCon Day 2 is going on right now, so there'll probably be some lack of attendance here. Our agenda is somewhat short. There's a planning spreadsheet, so we closed out our 1.6 stuff. So do you want to give a status on where we are with the 1.6 work?
You broke up a bit there, Brad. Can you say that again?
Oh, sorry. So do you want to give us status with the 1.6?
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so Matt DeLeo and I went through the planning spreadsheet, which is linked in the agenda, and we went through and marked each of the items as done, not started, or started. We can review those items if folks would like. And then what we did was we copied the items that were not started or started into the 1.7 tab as a starting point. So do you guys want to go through the first tab or the Q1 tab and see if folks agree, or just move on to what we think is not started and started?
Brad, can you share your screen?
Yeah. So we can go on to the 1.7 started, not started. I think we're good on that.
Cool. Sounds good.
Here, you want me to run through the list?
Do you want me to, well, I could do it. I'll go ahead and share my screen then. Here we go. All right, so this is the list of items that we filtered down. NFS wedging issue was something that we dropped last quarter. It's something that we should not drop this quarter. It requires a larger refactor, a larger redesign to address the issue. We have workarounds in place to prevent it. Especially now with mount options, you could do a soft mount to prevent this from happening if it's really an issue. But it's something that we should tackle at this point. We don't have an owner for it. Does anybody want to step up and take ownership for this for Q2?
I'll take it. This is Hemant.
Hemant, good man. All right, you are the lucky new owner of this issue. Who wants to be the reviewer for this?
I can do it.
Yeah.
Is that Jing?
Yeah, I can help.
Awesome.
Review, yeah.
All right, Jing, you are the assignee, and I forget what your alias is, so you can stick that in there.
Okay.
I'll look also, Sod. This is
Okay.
Jeff.
Cool. And the second item, I spoke to Jing offline, stabilizing AWS support for EBS. She said this was largely completed in Q1. Jing, do you want to keep this as an item on for Q2?
Yeah, because we want to add test and make sure, yeah.
Okay, so we'll keep this as a line item. Currently assigned to Justin Santa Barbara for the work. Should this be assigned to you, Jing?
It's okay. Just put both name is fine too.
Okay,
yeah.
Sure. And is Hemant still the correct reviewer for this?
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. Out of tree volume plugins, we're calling this CSI. We started to work towards a design. You guys saw the initial proposal go out a couple weeks ago. Lots of comments on that. I'm going to continue to drive that forward. We're probably going to hold meetings separate from the primary storage SIG meetings to discuss those, because they're going to require larger design discussions. But I plan to continue to drive that. And I think there's a lot of folks on the reviewer line. Please feel free to add yourself on the reviewer line if you want to be involved. or well, not involved if you want to be part of the approvals, I guess. But the aim for this quarter is going to be to get agreement across the cluster orchestration systems on what the CSI interface looks like. We're probably not going to talk about implementation or design this quarter, but then hopefully the subsequent quarter we can focus on that part. Local ephemeral storage and local persistent storage. Michelle, do you want to talk about this or how you want to break it up?
Yeah, sure. So we had our high level design in Q1 with mostly just the user interface details. For Q2, we want to start to implement an alpha feature based off of that. So I've linked the proposal that we had out, and we also we created the tracker issues and tried to split up all the features that we had put in the initial overview and, lay out a roadmap and plan for that. So I've linked all the tracker bugs there in the comments. What we really need now is we need to get some general consensus on the initial PR that we have. And at the same time, we've started working on a prototype and a detailed design document for each of the, for at least the alpha deliverables. I hope to have the detailed design out by next week. And and so if people can, help review the design proposal and also help review the PRs, that would be very helpful. Right now, if you look at our tracker issue, we have quite an aggressive goal for alpha. I think we only have a little more than a month to develop all the alpha features in order to meet the code freeze. So all the help that we can get in terms of reviewing and all of that would be great.
Are the names for these line items still correct, or are they worth changing?
Let's see. The owners are correct. I guess I don't know about, are the reviewers correct? I would like to have more than one person,
makes sense.
Spend some time to dedicate some time this quarter to help review.
Do we have anyone interested in reviewing the local storage designs?
I can help review.
Awesome.
Michelle, one thing I noticed on these, on the proposals, there's a pretty big requirement on the scheduler around this. And it's like some of that expertise would be outside of this SIG. Have we identified anybody else outside of storage SIG to help?
Yeah, so I think from the scheduler side, we're probably going to ask David Oppenheimer to help review the scheduler part.
How much is this new feature to the scheduler?
So I think there's two main parts. I mean, there's the volume plugin part, which is pretty independent. And then the main, probably the biggest, or I guess most difficult issue will be how to help, or how to change the scheduler to be able to deal with this new type of volume. But I think a lot of it can be done in terms of, a lot of it can be done as a scheduler predicate. So we're not actually changing core scheduler code. We're just adding some new predicates there to be able to handle it. So I think we can hopefully mitigate scheduler impact over there.
Okay, cool.
I just want to add for local and for storage support, I think the feature mainly is for capacity isolation, resource management. So the name may be a little bit confusing, not showing the real work. So anyone like interested in reviewing it, so welcome to put your name.
Okay, and Jing, can you revise the name and correct it if needed? And also, it looks like the feature that's being used to track it is the same as local persistent storage. Could you break it out into a separate feature?
Yes, we have a separate one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so in the comments, I actually linked to the tracker.
Correct one.
Which one is the tracker? Is it issue 43607?
Yeah, the issues.
In the comments.
Okay. Is there a features
in the
repo?
comments.
Is there a features repo bug tracking it?
No, the feature repo bug is tracking both.
Okay. Is it worth tracking them separately? And the reason I ask is the features repo bug is used to track things like documentation, things like that. And it looks like these features are different enough that their documentation and et cetera is going to be separate.
Yeah, that probably makes sense.
Okay. And 121 probably is more geared towards persistent, ephemeral, and durable. So maybe we want to break this out. Do Jing or Michelle, do either one of you want to take that as an item to break this up into two?
Yeah, that's fine. I can do that.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So let's move on from that. Mount option pass-through was introduced as beta in 1.6 thanks to Hemant's work. Do we want to drive that towards GA this quarter, or should we let it bake for a quarter and then try in the subsequent quarter?
I think we should let it bake for this quarter, and we should see where we want to go GA and whether we want to extend that support for storage classes as well or not. But I would not touch anything this quarter.
That sounds fair. All right, I'll go ahead and remove that item, and we'll have to remember to re-add it.
Sure.
Testing is always a high priority. We are going to continue to drive on this. Erin's been doing an amazing job. I think she can use all the help she can get. There's been more and more folks dialing into the test meeting she holds bi-weekly on Fridays. Erin, do you want to, are you on the line?
She's not.
Okay, Jeff, do you want to say a few words here?
Yeah, and I added one item on the agenda too after we go over the spreadsheet. No, I mean simply that John and I are chugging along with an eye toward the future, where we get more of the feature authors to also add end-to-end tests. We're trying to make the tests consistent and structured well so that they can be, so that any file you randomly grab in the E2E directory, is a good choice to copy for your own E2E test. We're trying to pull out common helper routines, and we're trying to deflate the test. There are some issues with the way the tests are written that make them fail when they're run in parallel, and we're working on cleaning that up as well.
Nice.
And then there's a whole out of tree issue that hopefully SIG Storage will at least look at a high level to decide whether there's any role in tree E2E and CI, if there's any role between that and out of tree storage code.
That's super valuable in helping the whole team be productive. So thank you. All right. So next up, cloud provider storage metrics. This was an item that was dropped last quarter. Is Jan still the right person to work on this?
No, it was in my name actually last quarter.
Okay. I think there was two line items here, right? One was
and one was volume controller matrix by.
Okay. So let's correct that.
Yeah. So last quarter the design proposal got merged, and I've already the PRs are the PR for GC should be merged today or sometime tomorrow. It's been approved already.
Sweet.
And PR for AWS is out for review as well. If somebody can have a look, that'll be great, and then we'll be done with the story.
Okay. And so for everyone who has a feature that's going to be part of 1.7, click on your feature repo issue and update the milestone to 1.7. If it's not, and you don't have the permissions to, ping either me or Matt DeLeo. Oh, they haven't created a 1.7 yet. All right, ignore that. We'll figure that out later. And just use that feature to keep track of everything. So Hemant, everything you said about which PRs are completed and which ones are not, just post them as a comment inside that issue.
Sure.
And that's going to GA, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And there was that other one that you were working on, enable volumetrics. Let's just drag that up so they're next to each other. Oops. I am failing at this, so I'll do that later. Where is it? Right here. So volumetrics used to be assigned to Huamin. You want me to assign that to you?
No. It's still assigned to Warman. He's
Okay.
working. He's separate for it.
Okay. And Huamin, can you similarly keep your issue number 167 updated?
Yeah, I will.
Cool. And both of these are going to GA, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Scheduling by node capabilities. I think this is a feature that we're going to kind of piggyback off of CSI. I'm not sure we want to design it separately. I'm going to deprioritize it for this quarter. I'm going to double check with Michael Rubin and make sure he's okay with it as well. But if anybody has any comments on it, let me know. Next up, snapshots and data replication. Let's go one by one. So snapshots was a design that Jing was helping drive, and a lot of folks, I think Tomas recently is helping a lot with that. Are Jing and Tomas the correct assignees for this?
Well, I think yes, from my side.
Cool. Is there anybody else who should be assigned as an owner?
Can we split this into two rows? One for snapshotting and one for replication?
They already are.
Okay.
So number 10 is snapshots and number 11 is data replication. Okay, and second thing I want to clarify here is what is the end goal for 1.7 for snapshots? Is it going to be a design or an alpha feature?
Alpha.
An alpha feature?
Yeah.
Tomas and Jing, do you agree?
Well, yeah, I think why not?
Okay. So
we need to resync with Jing. I mean, I'll just lay it all out there. So basically, we've had quite a few conversations, and Tomas is in Bruno, so they have earlier. Well, by the time they're in bed, we're just starting our day pretty much. So he's been hosting the calls early, and we need to reset with Jing on where this stuff sits.
Okay.
But we had a lot of good progress on those calls, and I think we're starting to come to consensus.
Yeah.
That consensus looks a lot like the original design proposal that was out there, anyways.
Okay, so let's say stretch goal is going to be an alpha feature. If we don't hit that, it's not going to be the end of the world.
Okay.
Cool. I've got Louis and Ritesh as the reviewers here. Brad, do you also want to be a reviewer on this?
Sure.
Cool. All right, so next up, very related feature, data replication. Sarge has been driving this pretty aggressively in the last quarter. Sarge, are you on the line? He is not. Anybody else close to the replication work? Steve Watt, maybe?
Yeah, we can add me there.
Okay. Do you want to be assigned as an owner or as a reviewer?
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that?
A reviewer.
A reviewer. Okay. I'm not sure what the goal for this is going to be. Let's leave it as docs for now and see if we want to change that to an alpha feature. When we mark a feature as alpha, there is going to be a whole bunch of process that's involved in terms of documentation and things like that. So let's be certain that we actually want a feature to be part of a release before we mark it. We'll get Sarge's input before we update that. Next up, enable metrics and volumes. We already visited this. It's going to GA, signed to Min. Brad's going to help review. Is Brad going to help review or Haman?
You have a lot of background.
Yeah, Brad is good enough.
Okay, cool. Running stateful applications via Federation plane. I spoke to Michael about this. Federation's not going to get to this, so we're going to drop this as a feature for this milestone.
There's some not storage team, but there's someone else has opened a feature request for running stateful application via Federation plane. Actually, not any of us on the storage SIG. Someone else actually.
Interesting. Could you link the feature issue here?
Yes, I'll do that. Maybe I'm just trying to find it quickly, but I'm not able to. But I can link it after the call or something as soon as I find it.
Okay, so then I'll keep the line item there, and then we can follow up on it later and see if anybody's actually committed to working on it.
Sure.
I imagine this work is probably going to be led by the Federation team, so maybe somebody on the Federation team decided this is something they're going to pick up. So let's just make sure we don't drop it if that's the case. All right, next up, encryption walkthrough. We are cutting that. Not going to happen. Delete row. Resource available scheduling. I believe this was part of the capacity isolation and resource management work. Jing and Michelle, could you confirm, is it okay to remove this as a separate line item?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and delete that. All right, so in terms of features, we don't have too many features. We've got some bug fixes. We've got a couple of features that are targeting alpha are huge. Local storage, snapshots, and then things going to GA are, well, we don't want to call testing GA, do we? It doesn't really matter. The cloud storage metrics and the volume controller metrics both going to GA, and that's it. So beyond this list, is there anything else that we want to add?
I don't know if it should be added, but there's a giant refactor work of the attached Detach Controller that I have it on the agenda for later, but I'd like to get that thing merged the second we can so we have plenty of time to test it.
Right. Yep. Let's make sure that we track that on here as well. Controller. And we probably want to come up with a better name for it. Basically what it does instead of what it...
It's the restart work.
Restart controller. And that we want to go to GA. And let's make that a high pry. And make that this release. And
34242.
That's the PR number?
Yeah.
Could you just link it in the comments and the notes section?
Yeah.
And can you fill in who the owner is? And Jing and I will make sure to be the reviewers on this.
I have reviewed it as well, sir. So yeah, I'll add my
Perfect.
name. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you guys think you have the bandwidth to review maybe next week so we can merge it? Maybe Monday or Tuesday?
I can try. Just ping me offline on Slack. I tend to get blocked by a bunch of things, so if I'm ignoring you, just keep pinging me constantly on Slack and I'll get to you.
Okay.
Make sure to link a feature repo bug in there. If it's not already open, just open a new one.
Okay, I don't think we have one, so we'll take that to open another one.
Cool.
I think there's an issue for this, if it's enough.
So for things that we're delivering, we'll need to, well, I guess it's a bug fix. If it's a bug fix, then we can just track it internally. Yeah, I guess that's fine. Don't open a feature for it.
So the last time we did the attach detach refactor, we did the post-mortem because it was such a
huge feature. Yeah, I mean that was literally gutting everything and separating it, and that was like replacing the entire core of the storage stack. Looking at this, it's large, but it's not nearly that large. It's related mostly to the Detach Controller, not into the volume manager or any of the other volume code. So it's big, but
big, but not too big.
Big, but not too big, and we're planning on getting it in early in the milestone, so that's good.
Okay.
Let's make sure we test the crap out of it.
Hard to tell yet. They're going line by line over features on this spreadsheet. The only reason I need to get in there is to Ryan.
Steve, you're not on mute.
Oh.
Okay, so we are gonna, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Does anybody have any other items they want to add to this list? All right, back to you, Brad.
Okay, so the only thing we have design reviews, and then there's PRs to talk about. The design review requesting is for the local storage. Does anybody want to give an overview of where this is at?
Yeah, so I think we're basically at the final round of reviews. So if there's still any concerns that I haven't addressed, please ping me about them. I try to make sure to respond to everything. So if I haven't responded to one of your questions, that I probably missed it. So just ping me again. But we would really like to get to some consensus, within the next week or so on this, so that we can start implementing for alpha.
Okay, I know I have one question open about block storage, the handling of block storage. You want me to take that to email?
Doesn't matter. We can discuss it here if we have time.
I think we have time. We have 27 minutes left.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So basically, I think a while ago, Jan gave some suggestions about how to handle the block devices. His idea was basically you can have all the disks available as a block resource, and then depending on how the user wants to use it, they can decide at the time they create the pod if it wants to be a block, if they want to use it as a block device, or if they want to use it as a file system. So that was the reason why the block attribute was at the PVC.
So the question I had is the bootstrapping of the actual block storage. So if you have, we kind of talked about this a little bit internally, but if you have like MySQL or one of the other databases that will take raw block storage as its backing store, like there's some kind of bootstrap process that needs to happen. And if you're a pod that's trying to do the bootstrapping process, you don't really have access into the properties of the persistent volume that's attached to you. Right? So that was kind of my concern, is like, how is the pod supposed to know what block devices are attached to it? And then like, how's the bootstrapping actually handled?
Ah, that part. Yeah. So that still needs to be worked out. I think we added in, this kind of high level proposal for block devices, just kind of as to cover all the bases, but we haven't actually looked into the details of how we would actually, access the block devices. I did a quick look at how Docker does it, and Docker does have a device option that's separate from the volume mounts. They have a device option where you can pass in an actual block device there. So if we do want to handle the block support in the future, I think we would have to go through an interface like that. Then the question there is, if we have to do everything through CRI, so then the CRI needs something like that as well. But I think those were the kind of details we were going to push off until the future, when we actually do have time to implement the block support.
So not implemented as part of the first release?
No, so block support, I think if you look at the issue we have with our roadmap, the block support is at least, not until 1.9.
Okay. So on stuff like that, why, this has always confused me about the Kubernetes process. Like, there's kind of like this urge to half design the feature, but then kind of roadmap it out. Do we want to do less? I mean, like, I don't mind if we just say like, hey, we're not going to implement this. We thought about it, but we haven't. But if we specify that, we're going to modify the PVC to include block or file, that kind of seems like we're implying that it's going to be partially implemented.
It's going to be forever.
Should we just nix that?
No, it's
Sorry, did I just jinx it?
I think that's fair feedback, Brad. But I don't think that's what the intention here is. From what Vish and Michelle have been telling me, I think what they're trying to do is get a proof of concept out the door as fast as possible, because what they've learned is you could spend just months and months on end trying to design the perfect design, but when you start actually implementing it, you're going to discover a lot more issues. So they want to get some sort of prototype working and then help that lead the design rather than kind of design in isolation, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, so proof of concept it out.
Right.
I think the other thing is we wanted to also provide kind of like a high level roadmap of where we think we can handle all the different use cases that people might have and how that might fit in to what we're proposing. So that was kind of where the block handling came in here. We were just thinking, if people want to use block devices, how would that fit into what we are proposing?
Okay, so should I add some of the concrete use cases to it, or do we want to just leave those off and kind of wait until we're actually designing it?
I think that would be good. It'd be good to know, what potential use cases we would have. I think somewhere maybe at the top of the doc, we should mention that this is kind of like a multi-release vision document more than, what we are currently doing or currently planning on doing for the immediate alpha feature.
Okay. Anybody else have feedback on this?
Hi, can you guys hear me? This is Luis.
Yes.
Yeah, I will also add some use cases to that. I look forward to the block interface for this project.
Great.
Cool. So I don't know that qualifies as a full design review, but I think it sounds like we're getting pretty close to the point where this can be prototyped in.
Yeah, it sounds like for the most part, most people are okay with the general workflow for the basic volume use case. I guess it seems like right now most of the questions that are coming up are on some of the more the future items that we weren't planning on doing immediately.
All right, so next up we have 2 PRs. One is around the detach restart work, which I think we already addressed. And then Waman, you added iSCSI chap PR around that.
So if we can get an approval for the PR, that's great.
Yeah, so something we're kind of running into is a lot of the PRs seem to bottleneck on approvals. And we haven't traced it up the approval chain yet, but I suspect it's not fine enough grained at the directory level that we're trying to commit to.
Got it. Yeah. I'll take a look at this PR. In general, for the approver issue, I think that's kind of a issue across the project. We just need to get better about making sure that the correct directories have the correct owners. I think PRs like this tend to be problematic because they spew across multiple different directories. I'm looking at it right now. You've got stuff in API, you've got stuff all over the place. So usually the approver bot won't be happy because even if you get approval from someone who's in one directory, they probably are not going to have approval somewhere else. So unless you get approval from someone who's very low in the tree or from a bunch of people that have approval across a bunch of different directories, I think it's just the nature of these large PRs. But I'll take a look at that, Brad.
Okay. Then last thing on our agenda, Steve Wong, you had the face-to-face list on yours. Or you want to go over that?
Yeah, this is just a reminder that recently the location was edited there. There's a number of Dell EMC buildings in the area, and it's based on head count. So I think it's currently moved to Great America Parkway versus Mission something is where it was before. I think they're in the same general neighborhood. And then please, if anybody is canceling, get your name off. And if you are going to be there, put an email there because the building we're destined to go to doesn't have guest Wi-Fi. So I'll use that email to get you personal credentials to get on Wi-Fi.
Steve, do we have something set up to do remote attendance? Will we have?
Well, I was thinking we'd do the standard Zoom, although we'd have to use a laptop with a camera. I did not. The only conference rooms that we have, meaning Dell EMC, with cameras are set up to use the Cisco telepresence thing. And you have to have Cisco at the other end to get it to work. So they don't wire the conference rooms with generic webcams.
We can bring a laptop and try to set up Zoom on it. I think in the past we've done that. It hasn't been ideal, but it gets the job done.
Yeah, if I recollect what went down in Seattle, we had a lot of whiteboard activity, and getting that effectively on a Zoom, I'm a little skeptical about. But
yeah,
we can at least make an attempt, I suppose. But I make no promises for somebody attending remotely as to, you're going to lose fidelity, and the whole point of doing these face-to-face is that it is better if you're there.
Makes sense.
Anyway, that was it. I got sent at the last minute to Berlin, so here Mike.
Nice.
Right when his Wi-Fi gives out, I guess. All right. So that was everything on the agenda. Any last minute items? Anything you guys want to add?
I added a couple of items. Let me see if I could share my screen to our backlog over here. Stabilizing Azure support. So I recall there was a bunch of folks that have been working on the Azure plugins who have had, I guess, issues with the core code, and they wanted to make changes there. I believe Seth was one of the people working on that. I wanted to have a line item here so that we actually carve out space and people to review this. Do we have anybody working on the Azure plugins who wants to comment on this or is interested in driving it?
I can start working on it.
Okay. Do you want to be the owner for this?
Yeah, I can take it.
Cool. And the scope of this work is beyond just the plugin itself. I think actually, Kwame, you were the one who was leading a lot of this work before, so you're probably already very, very familiar with it. Who wants to be the reviewer for this?
So, I can do that.
Chakri, okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Awesome. And we're going to call it GA, but it doesn't really mean anything in this case. Priority, we're going to put as 2, and this will be a single release. I'm not sure if it's worth tracking as a separate feature. We didn't do that for AWS, so we won't do it for Azure. Second item I added here was PVC capacity usage stats. This was something that Jing Shu on our side was requesting. The idea here is that when you list PVs, PVs using the kubectl command, kubectl get PV, it should be able to give you what the usage capacity of those PVs is. That'd be a pretty sweet feature to have. Jing, I'm not sure how committed you were to working on it this milestone. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I can look into it. And,
okay.
Yeah.
So maybe let's call it design, and I'll assign you. Who wants to be the reviewer for this? Anybody interested in this area?
I can review it.
I'll say interest is a strong word, but one of us can take it.
Cool. Jing, if you start working on the design, go ahead and open a feature for it and post the feature link in here.
Sure.
Cool. That was it from my end. Does anybody else have anything they wanted to add to the planning doc? In general, let's be a lot more conscious about adding things to the planning doc so that it's easier for folks to plan their work for the quarter. Even if it's bug level work, if it's tracked, it's a lot easier than if it's kind of ad hoc. So if anything comes up during the quarter, feel free to ping this meeting or ping me directly and say, here's something that we should probably be tracking. And as we go through the rest of the quarter, we'll probably just look back at this planning doc and use it as the reference point to check in on status for things. That's it from me, Brad.
All right, last call.
Hi, this is Luis. I just added a section at the end where I'm just requesting the ability to take Quartermaster, which is a project that we talked about, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, about the architecture of it and how it allows you to install storage systems onto Kubernetes. And I would like to move it to Kubernetes Incubator. And I'm following the Incubator community website, the description, and it says that it would need to get acceptance by SIG first. So this is my first project moving this into the Incubator. So is this the right process, or what do I do?
I think you've come to the right place, but we have not really done much of this before. Brad, I think you went through this with the external provisioner. Maybe you've got more experience with it than some of us.
Yeah, so with the external provisioner, it was a little more obvious because I think everybody was fairly familiar with it. You are hitting the right process, though, because you'll have to have a SIG to support it, and then a champion from, well, probably deeper down the commit or deeper down the source tree than anyone on this call right now to champion it. But I can help you with that process. I think the main point, though, is it needs to be socialized with the SIG, and we have to have a pretty good understanding of it. And then we can, say if it's got the SIG support or not.
Okay.
Which, problem. I think it's just a matter of like socializing and make sure everybody's familiar with what it does and what your intent is with it.
Sure. Okay. Maybe in 2 weeks I can provide a demo or talk more about it or something like that.
I think that would be perfect.
Awesome. Let's do that.
Sounds good to me.
Hey, Brad, this is Jeff. I put on the agenda, probably in the wrong part of the agenda, but E2E testing for out-of-tree storage. And I just thought at a really high level, without going into details of how it could work, I'd like to understand from SIG Storage point of view, if there is a desire to in some way integrate test infra and CI for out-of-tree storage. In other words, does the Kubernetes community value being able to claim that a certain release of Kubernetes works with the following external storage providers and some list because we've run some level of end-to-end testing for out-of-tree providers? Is that even desirable for Kubernetes to be able to do that and make that kind of claim?
So I don't think anybody would turn away some extra testing, right? Like any kind of like testing or validation that's done to show that something works at a certain level. I think everybody would be on board with that.
Well, realize today, we have 19 plugins or so, and they're all in tree, and they all get tested based on end-to-end test. And recently, there's a lot of new tests added for vSphere, and that's great. Some have more, some have fewer, but we do cover it. When we move to out of tree, most of those 19 providers will now be out of tree, and it will take deliberate effort to be able to run those tests in an automated fashion. And do we want to do that?
Yeah, I think that we do. Yeah, I mean, in my mind, it's absolutely we want to do testing. I'm, like you said, I don't think I understand what the design for it would quite look like quite yet. But if your proposal is that you'd like to propose a design, I think this, we'd be more than happy to review it and consider it with high priority of
One problem is the tests that are added, like 19 plugins that you said, Jeff, like vSphere. We don't run those tests as part of the CI process. Like iSCSI tests are not running part of CI process because E2E tests exist, but we don't have the setup that Kubernetes has. Doesn't have vSphere. It doesn't have iSCSI, so those tests are not run actually. So one challenge is like finding out the setup that is required to run those specific volume plugin set tests, and that's one big challenge we have.
Yes, a good point, and that is one of the biggest challenges is making sure that the nodes that test would run on have satisfied the requirements of the plugin, and it's not clear to John and I, who've been thinking about this problem, how we do that. When a test is tagged with a feature, it gets skipped by CI. But my understanding from talking to SIG testing earlier in the week was that even though it's skipped as part of the PR acceptance process, that feature tests do get run at some point. And if they fail, they fail, and then it's just the standard process for dealing with a failed test. It's either exceptioned out or someone has to look at it. But you're right. I mean, so the inventory of the target nodes is critical for getting coverage of the various external storage providers.
Yeah. So Jeff, I think to answer your question, I think, yes, the SIG's definitely interested in it. Do you want to take an action to maybe come up with a straw man design or something that we can, all look at and collectively on?
Yeah, we'll try to get something more. I mean, we've got a document. I don't need to share it right now, but we'll try to turn that into an official, in the community proposal section and get something out there for review.
I think we should consider, like, if the individual providers who have added the plugins or who are adding the plugins, if they're willing to donate hardware or willing to like have some sort of hook. We talked about it before, where the tests are occasionally run on that particular infrastructure and the results or XML or whatever is posted back to GitHub. So that, I mean, right now vSphere tests are not run at all, actually, not even as part of feature thing or anything. It just, we rely on folks who manage the plugin to occasionally run the tests offline and expect that it works. But that's about it. We don't have any guarantees that those tests are working. So
yeah, right. I mean, you're right. And I mean, even ignoring vSphere or third-party vendor code, we don't even have the right environment to run the iSCSI test. What is it? iSCSI ADM or something is missing in GKE. I mean, so that is an issue. It's a big one.
All right, so let's wait. We'll wait until we have some technical stuff that we can strawman around, just so we don't. I hate talking about too much of the design where we don't have a place to capture use cases.
Yeah. It's fine, and I wanted it really high level, Brad, and I got my answer. The answer is yes, there's interest, and let's move to the next step.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to see something come out of that. I don't think we can have too much testing. All right, guys. I'll give you 3 minutes back. Thanks, everyone, for joining, and have a good rest of the week.
Thanks. See you guys.